Okay, we are recording. Betty Boo, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. No one ever asked me how I am on this. That's a first. 400 episodes in, and yeah, you're the first person to actually ask how I'm doing. I'm all right, mate. Thank you.
Mm.
We've had a brief chat and talked about what a glorious day it is out there today. But I want to, before we get on with your playlist, Betty,
Mm.
ask you a little bit about the kind of previous 2 years, which were tough for so many people. But I just want to ask you how you found um, the sort of 2 years in lockdown, both personally and creatively.
Well, I was in the process of writing my sort of comeback just before lockdown,
Yeah,
and so when lockdown happened, we I just had to find a way of continuing the creative process, and in fact, it was quite a good way of being on my own and sort of finding my voice again. And so I set up. I mean, I've always had a setup at home, but I literally made a little corner in our bedroom. Made have this little stuff. I have tinsel or blossom in this case. Made my own little sort of boudoir kind of place and started writing the rest of my record. So yeah, it was okay for me, but we're in the countryside,
yeah,
so in Wiltshire, and it was okay. We were able to get out and not see anybody.
yeah,
And luckily we didn't lose anybody that we knew.
yeah,
But it did have it was a bit weird, wasn't it? Looking back now
yeah, absolutely.
after after that. I mean, in fact, when we had to go to the supermarkets and things and queue up and stuff like that, and then it was usually just one at a time, um, I would stay in the car and my husband would go into the supermarket. And often, you'd have to wait like for an hour or something. So I
Yeah.
used that time in the car park to write songs as well. So I don't know, I was all sort of in my own little world, I guess.
Ha- Tell me a little bit about your kind of sort of work ethic then over that time. You said you sort of built a sort of DIY studio at home to be able
Mm.
to record and such. Like, would you set yourself up? Just tell me in general how you approach sort of writing. Do you set yourself like right 9 to 5 today I'm going to write, or is it when something's there and the creative
Mm.
juices are flowing right I'll jump on it now, or like how do you approach it?
Well, it's a bit of both actually. Well, the way we found a process of working, my producer and I, Andy Wright. So I would send him my ideas and in a big file, and then he'd sort of work with my ideas, and then he'd send back a draft that I would have to then put some more stuff on, and then we just worked that way. So in that way, because I knew that I he was sort of waiting for my ideas, it sort of pushed me to do
Yeah,
that. And also we have an engineer and mixer who's great as well, called Gavin, and so he was waiting for my work to be able to plonk it in my ideas and things, and
yeah,
um, but it was sort of we had sort of 6 or 7 versions of each track on my album. So, but that was the way I was able to work because I had to do it really
yeah,
and push
yeah,
myself. And sometimes I had to dig deep because some days I didn't really feel like doing anything, and you sort of I got a bit bored of cooking, and you just felt a bit sort of
yeah,
um, uh, I don't know. You just sometimes you just didn't feel inspired. So, but in order to, I just used to start listening to music on my
yeah.
headphones and things like that, just get some inspiration.
Okay, I'm going to start your playlist now, Betty, and I'm going to ask you,
Mm.
please, for track one, to tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please.
Well, I thought hard about this.
It's a big question, this one.
It is because there are loads of songs, aren't there? And I just tapped into my sort of teenage years, and I think Thriller is a great, there's a great intro on that.
Mm,
Um, Mainly because of the drama,
yeah,
um, and the things that went with that, the memory of that song. And I remember at school we would sort of practice the dance, the zombie dance, and everything like that, and we knew the words to the intro and everything with the guy talking at the
yeah,
beginning. And also my friends from school had a older cousin who lived in Fulham Broadway, and she had the VHS of the video.
Oh, that was like gold dust at my school, and someone had the making of on VHS,
Oh,
and
did
that
they
was like,
really?
oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, so this was the big deal, and we thought, right, we're going to take the 295 bus and bunk off school for the afternoon, go round to her house,
Yeah,
and go around there. And we had orange squash, and we watched this video. It was really fuzzy and everything. It was VHS, but it just blew our mind, the
yeah,
whole thing, because it was like a mini film, and it was revolutionary in lots of ways, wasn't it? I think it was one of the big MTV videos. Um, so of course, and everyone knew the words to the song, and the fact that he turned into a zombie as well
yeah.
on the video was great.
It holds up though. It's like I mean, the song's obviously just different level good, but
Mm,
the video, the impact that it had, you watch it now and you can completely see why it still holds up. It's like
mm,
it's an incredible. I think around that time, like he was just untouchable as an artist,
yeah,
wasn't he?
yeah.
And the subsequent stuff that followed afterwards was incredible as well. I'm sure we'll talk about Jackson a little bit later as well. But one of the things that I'm always interested in asking songwriters
Mm,
is about intro,
mm,
and 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 if when you was writing the debut record,
mm,
the way that people would listen to that and get their music then is very different to how people get their music now.
mm.
So, and when you watch, I watch my kids with their rapid thumbs just whizzing through TikTok and all of that,
Yeah.
and I just wonder if like writing pop music and there's so many. I've never got this question right, Bay, and I've asked it 400 times, but I just want to know if the kind of trends in how people get their music and the pressure to get on Spotify playlists and to hook them right from the off, like trim all
Mm.
the fat off the song. Does any of them sort of trends in how people sort of listen to music ever filter through into your creative process? Do you get where I'm going with that question?
I think I understand. Do you mean because I've always written songs as if they're a 3.5 minute pop song?
Right, yeah, exactly. So that's
So I
kind of,
thought that's always my. It's I wouldn't say it's a formula, but it's just an instinct for me to know, like, you have to have an intro, first verse. It doesn't need to be. It can't be too long, or else it's too boring. You've got to hold people's attention, and then you've got to have a little bit just before the chorus that is a little bit of another little hook.
yeah,
And then you've got your massive chorus, or not so much the massive chorus in some cases, maybe. Um, and then there's a new thing in pop music now. I think it's like a post-chorus, or it's like something like a little refrain, and then you go back into second verse, or maybe not. Just I think there are lots of tunes now, especially I suppose with rap and stuff like that, and all the grime and things. They don't really necessarily follow that formula.
yeah,
They're vibes, aren't they? And they sort of go with I suppose, a culture, and they're made to sound really good in your car with a good system,
yeah.
or good headphones. So yeah, no, it's sort of changed. I don't think it is a weird world we live in now with Spotify and things like that.
Yeah,
You do have to, I think. I mean, I'm learning every day because it's so different. Having so many different sort of versions maybe of the same track is
sure.
good, because it keeps people interested. Because that's the main thing. You've got to keep people interested, because now people's attention spans are so
Yeah,
little and short, aren't they? Well, mine is actually.
yeah.
So and I've become that way. I don't know if it's my age or not, but
Do you
yeah.
do you think that kind of I know you said it's sort of not a formula, but maybe that excuse me. Um that mindset of like the 3.5 minute pop song. Do you think that as someone that grew up in the 80s that was that was a songwriter and was in bands and stuff, like I feel that like that period of sort of synth pop through to pop, and the big heavyweights like Madonna and such. It was we were spoiled for pop then, it feels like, and I don't know if that has just literally sort of set itself in stone inside me that that's my kind of go-to. I want first big euphoric chorus. I want a big pop-tastic chorus, and I don't know if that's just because of the age that I am and growing up exposed to the music that I was exposed to throughout the 80s. Do you think there's anything in that?
Oh, definitely. We were spoilt for choice in the old days, weren't we? I think, even songs like, I don't know, even artists like Howard Jones. I mean, they had like to get to know you well, like to get to know you better. They were always kind of, those hooks were great, and the instrumentation, there were hooks in there as well that stick with you. So when you hear them, you do the little do 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 as well. I don't know. That's what I do in the car anyway.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Listening to Popmaster or something like that. So.
Oh, I love a drop of Popmaster.
Oh, for 10:30 every day.
God, that comes on. Do you know what? How do you reckon you'll get on if you got on there? Because I sit there in the car and I smash it. But I reckon the minute if I spoke to him, I'd crumble and I'd go to bits. Do you reckon you could hold your own?
It depends on the era. I mean, you do get eras where, who's Barry the Burmese? Barry. It depends. Like if it's 80s or 90s or even noughties,
same.
I'm usually good at that. But 60s, 70s, no, I don't think so. I wasn't. I mean, unless it was like a Duran Duran question, early Duran Duran, or sort of disco that was coming up in that era. Oi, cat, get off.
Right, I'm going to take you back for track 2, and I'm going to ask you, please, Betty, to tell me the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
Well, I think Baggy Trousers is by Madness. Really did, because it just, I don't know, it was so fun, and I just remember dancing to it and doing the sort of moves and everything with my friends after school, and dancing till we got dizzy, and dancing to it and doing the moves and having to lie down because we'd been dancing so much, and then ending up having to go and get a glass of Kiora Orange or something like that.
Shout out Kiora.
Do they make that anymore? I don't know.
It must do, surely.
That's got probably too many E numbers or something in it now. So
exactly, that's why you was dancing like a loon, wired on Kiora.
Oh yeah, that's probably it, isn't it? Bang on it on the Kiora, right. Yeah. So I loved anything by Madness, and actually that era really did. I loved the sort of ska stuff that was out at that time as well, because it really was a bit like, I don't know, Madness were from London as well, so singing with a sort of a London accent, everyone would sort of try and copy it, and it was sort of in the days of like in Grange Hill or something. You always had Todd Carty doing, being a rebel and things like that. So
it's so weird. They do go hand in hand. Whenever I think of like that period of madness, I instantly think of Grange Hill as well. As much as I see Lee with his saxophone in the video flying through the air, I also see that sausage on a fork going through the air at the beginning of Grange Hill.
It's true.
But I do think that I've said this so many times on this podcast, and for the next question, so many people have actually chosen Baggy Trousers, because I think it says it all, doesn't it? That was working class school, wasn't it? It was, naughty boys, and every single, and it's such, and I think because of the way that Madness's videos were so comical and funny, and they'd always be sort of titting around when they were on the telly, and they just, as a young lad, I wanted to be in Madness. They looked like the most fun ever. But I think that has not given them the sort of, not credit, but the kind of love and and not love. That's the word I'm looking for. Respecting the music community that maybe that has been given to, Ian Dury and the Blockheads or the Kinks. And I think that Madness and it was Lee, wasn't it? That wrote not Lee. Uh,
Chaz.
Barson, was it Barson wrote most of the songs,
I
didn't
think it's
he?
Chaz. I thought Chaz wrote most of them.
And
Chaz.
and like just the social commentary in them records
Yeah.
is incredible. And
Mm.
there's I think most people could probably list like 10, 15 amazing Madness singles. Like they were
Yeah.
just
Even the B-sides though, like Los Bahamas 7 or
oh
whatever it was called. And what was it? Did they do Swan Lake or something else?
yeah, it was called The Business,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
brilliant. Like, and it was just as a kid, like I just think if you ever saw Top of the Pops on like Tiswas or whatever, like it was just an event, wasn't it? And they just looked like lads you'd see down the road. They looked like a gang as well. And I
They
think,
look like a gang, and they also look like the older boys that you really kind of looked at and thought, oh, I really want to hang out with them.
yeah, yeah, they'd definitely give you a little B&H, wouldn't they? Like they were
Yeah.
definitely smoking. Like,
Yeah, there was, yeah, no, it just brings back really good memories of, and actually buying the records as well. I mean, you've probably heard that a load of times, but physically getting that record and watching it spin.
yeah,
It's really, because we didn't have much to do when we were teenagers apart from play out and play records, um, and play sport in the streets.
was you like a
And
nerd with music, Betty? Like, so with like the if you got a record and you'd put it on, like, would you sit and sort of devour the sleeve and like and read it and study it and
yeah, no, I definitely used to do that. Look at the small print. Um, Sometimes they had lyrics on there, which was a good thing because you could
yeah,
sing along. Also, the pictures, like for instance, I mean, with the Dare album, I was fascinated with that, by Human League, because that had the pictures of every member, and even I think even the producer was on there as
yeah,
well. That was fascinating because I thought these people have actually they've gone into a room somewhere, don't know where, but they've made this music, and she's singing that bit, she's singing that bit, he's singing that bit, and it was sort of you created your own story from
yeah.
those pictures. And it was the same for Madness too. I used to think, gosh, they're just great. I love them, and I still do. And they're national treasures, really, aren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, like you said, they look like the lads that were a few years older than you at school. But I think you look at like Dare, you look at the Human League, and they look like they were literally beamed down from space. Like
Yeah.
they were otherworldly, weren't they? And it sounded otherworldly what they were doing at that
Yeah, because
point.
they had these instruments that really were fairly new,
Yeah,
like in synths and things. So this was a sound that was new too, and they were able to, the sound of where those chords went in those songs was dictated by the technology that they had as well,
yeah,
because they would have had presets in there that were really fascinating and to hear, and little sounds that maybe would have inspired Phil Oakey to sing something differently.
yeah,
It's just these are all factors to how those
yeah.
things sound.
Well, we've spoken a lot about school, so it's fitting that I'm going to ask you for track three. Betty, tell me if something reminds you of your time at school, please.
Or Ghost Town by the Specials is, yeah, it's kind of, they're all kind of related. My sort of taste in growing up in school, it's very similar to sort of Madness and stuff. But I love the Specials. I love Terry Hall. I thought they were cartoony, the Specials, in
Oh,
lots of ways.
really?
Yeah, even though they're moody and stuff, they were kind of like the video for Ghost Town when they're in the car and they're going through this tunnel and everything. I just thought, wow, they look amazing. I thought it was almost like a precursor to Gorillas, if you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about it. Terry Hall so looks like a character from
yeah.
Gorillas, doesn't he? Um, and I think I might have been about 10 or 11 at primary school, and I do remember having arguments with a girl who was actually her family were from the West Indies, and she said that's not reggae, that's just pop. And I went, well, there's nothing wrong with pop. It's brilliant. I think we actually had a fight had to be pulled apart and everything. But later in life, she realised that it actually is a great song, and it's awesome. But also, it was kind of I didn't understand the content of it then. Even I think I was a bit too young to know what it was really about. But because growing up in Shepherd's Bush in London, West London, it was like a ghost town in places as well, and Brixton and other areas, or most urban areas around the country. It was a ghost town, and people were really in a bad way. They didn't have any future. There was no fun at all. Thatcher's years, and I mean, I don't really like getting political about things, but growing up through Thatcher being our prime minister was awful.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? It was just
you're not
so
going to get an
bad.
argument out of me on that.
Yeah. I mean, my little dog, we had a little Yorkshire Terrier called Bobby, and my nanny she was a socialist or stroke communist, and we used to buy those toys that had a Margaret Thatcher's head on it, so we could
the dog toys.
Yeah, dog toys. So we just like attack it like this, and we used to think it was really funny.
So tell me a little bit about growing up there. Was it a happy place to grow up?
Yeah, fairly happy. It was cosmopolitan. Lots of different cultures. Growing up in Shepherd's Bush, I feel like I was lucky to have grown up with so many different people from different backgrounds, because there was lots of different foods you could buy. We had stores that used to sell different things, and I mean, on our street had lots of people from the West Indies, Yugoslavia, Jewish, Asian, Indian, everything. And it was great until, secondary school came along, and then, everyone was sort of trying to find their way. And I mean, I remember being bullied slightly, well, quite a lot actually, because I didn't really fit in with many. I don't know, it was either black or white, and if you were brown in those days, people just couldn't figure you out at all. And I was half Malaysian, half Scottish, so most people didn't know where Malaysia was, and they couldn't understand it at all. So I used to get a little bit of a lip from people. But
was you confident though?
Yeah, I was actually. I used to play. I found my confidence in sport, and I used to play netball for the school, and I used to sing for the school as well. I used to sing solos, classical music. So my music department used to send me off to do competitions and things, and I always came second. And the girl who there was one girl who always came first, so I just thought, well, that's always obviously rigged. So it was fairly happy. I mean, there was a division between poor and rich, I think, or well off and poor. I mean, you notice poor kids at school, because they'd have to queue up for a ticket for their dinner, to have lunch, but they had to go in a separate queue to pick up their ticket. And I used to think that's really like, they don't need to do that. Everyone could just have their lunch, because you had to pay at the cafeteria and everything. But apart from that, I think I enjoyed growing up there. It sort of definitely gave me my musical taste, I think. I used to listen. Had friends across the road called Jackie and Alison. Their dad was from Jamaica and their mum was from Grenada. So they used to go down to Greensleeves Records and buy the latest stuff out of, all the imports and everything. And they used to play a lot of soca, which I loved, but they had a wicked sound system in their house. And we didn't, because we had a little tinny kind of, one of those old fashioned, the ones, the cabinets with the with the record player in there. But they had, big speakers, and they took it very seriously. So to go around there and listen to music really loudly and hear the bass was fabulous. And And it was interesting because whatever was in the charts, you know, the normal UK charts, usually there'd be versions from Kingston of, say, Imagine by John Lennon, or in a reggae version sung by somebody else.
Yeah.
And I used to enjoy that. I used to think that was great.
Did you know what you wanted to be when you was at school?
No, not really. I just think, well, I went to the careers office because we had to when you were in the fourth year. I don't know what the conversion is now in what the years system's different nowadays,
I don't get it.
isn't it?
I'll still say third and fourth year. Don't worry. We're
So
all
fourth
good.
year, you're sort of 14, 15, you try and work, you go to the careers office, you get asked or you're offered things of what you can do and everything. And I remember thinking, yeah, I'd like to be a vet because I love animals and stuff like that. And I remember the careers officer saying to me, no, I don't think so. You know, think you've got to get be a secretary and you can't go wrong, and just get a couple of O levels and then leave school. And
Cheers.
you know, I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's really, I've just told you I want to do something. Why can't you help me? And, you know, but anyway, so from that day on, I just thought I'm going to do what I want to do. But then I discovered rap music and started rapping in my bedroom and learning raps and writing raps. And I formed a little crew with a girl from school, and we formed the She Rockers. And I think it just sort of evolved from there, really. I just sort of, that was my sort of hobby. And then I thought, I think I could do something with this. And I didn't actually have a plan. I wouldn't say I had a plan. I think it sort of just evolved into something where I thought, this is what I really want to do. And I loved the idea of making music. But I used to a lot of my friends were DJs, so they'd have two decks in their bedrooms or in their house, and you know, the only way of looping up beats was to get two records together and try and write something over those. But you had to have a really good DJ who could do it on time. Otherwise, that was a bit rubbish. So yeah, I mean, it definitely from about 16 or 17, I thought I could do something, and I ended up touring with Public Enemy, my group, and I we did that for about a month or so in America, in New York, in Philadelphia. So that was sort of like my apprenticeship, if you like.
I mean, that's some apprenticeship, Betty. You know, you've just sort of dropped that in there, like quite matter of fact.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to wind it back a little bit and just tell me a little bit, because we're very similar in age, and I, from where I was just outside London, when hip hop happened, the excitement around it, if it was something from another planet, it felt like.
Yeah.
Tell me about the excitement you felt when hip hop was starting to sort of filter through into the UK, and you know, you'd grab whatever little bits you could get from wherever it was available. Like, just talk me through that, them kind of early moments of.
Well, there were lots of there were pirate radio stations played that, you know, whatever, if anyone went to New York, they would play the latest rap records, and there were certain DJs that did that. I mean, Westwood was one of the pioneers of that, and another DJ called Dave Pearce, who was on Radio London, and actually not David Rodigan, but there was another DJ.
Was it Mike Allen? Was Mike
Allen? Yes, it was Mike Allen. Yeah, thanks for that. He had a little show on Capital, didn't he?
Yeah.
So and he played the latest things that were around, and that was really exciting. But I also used to go to lots of clubs that would play that, and there was a club called the Astoria that used to play a lot of Public Enemy, and I remember hearing Public Enemy for the first time, like Public Enemy #1, with that little sample at the beginning. It was like, what is that? You know, it was like that one.
Yeah.
And it was just phenomenal. And Chuck D's voice was amazing, and that's the beats of it were so great. And I think they used like like an SP12 drum machine, which was almost like a sampler as well, where you could sample drums and things as well. So the sort of the quantize on there is really, really amazing. That's why it's got that kind of amazing beat to it. Yeah, I mean, like, again, like I think pirate radio and some of the mainstream radio stations were able to inform us of what was around on in another country. But again, it was like, God, who are these people that are making this new music? Yeah.
I saw a clip online of, and I'd like to know a little bit of the backstory about it, because it just looks like you've accosted Griff in like a burger bar or something, and he's just got a little boombox and he's beatboxing, and then you just start rapping. Like, I mean, it's incredible. And like, what's the kind of backstory there?
Oh, right. Okay. So me and my friend, we had the She Rockers then.
Yeah.
Donna, she was in the video of that. We'd just been to the Def Jam tour concert.
Yeah.
It was 1987, and it was at the Hammersmith. It was the Odeon in those days.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. Oh, were you? Oh my God. Well, it was phenomenal, wasn't it? It was just.
Was it Eric B? And was it Eric B? Or was it LL Cool?
It was LL Cool J, because it was a Def Jam tour. Yeah. So Eric B. LL, Run DMC.
Oh, of course, Run DMC.
And Beasties. It was that famous one where the Beastie Boys were running havoc everywhere by nicking all the
V-dubs.
And putting them around their necks and things. So we'd just been to see them, and that was in Hammersmith. So we were walking back, and we went. It's a short walk down to Shepherd's Bush Green, and then we saw Griff and his S1Ws, the guys with the Uzis, basically. They were in the McDonald's ordering a fillet of fish. They don't eat meat. And we went, oi, all right, we just went to your show. And they went, yo, you're into rap, obviously, because we were, we had hip hop clothes on.
Yeah.
Apart from me, who, by the way, had my granny's cardigan on because I was cold that day. I said, Nanny, can I borrow your cardigan?
It's a bit pressure.
They had that and a pair of Adidas high tops. It was like, that's a look, okay. So and they noticed that we were into rap music, and we talked about the show, and then he said, do you want to do some rapping? Because they had a camera, because they were filming their own little documentary, because it was their first time in the UK as Public Enemy. So they just started filming us, and he had beatbox. He was doing beatbox, Griff, and we just started rapping our, sort of raps that we were doing at the time, and and that's how that came about. But the manager threw us out. It was so 80s as well. We had like this tag.
Just like watching that yesterday.
And we weren't really causing any problems, you know. So he was ushering us out, and I think at the end I've stuck two fingers up at him.
That must have looked terrifying, giving him the finger in your nan's cardigan.
Oh, he was trembling. So then we're walking up the street, and then next to it was a Donna kebab or kebab machine, and LL Cool J was in there.
No way!
So surreal. On Shepherd's Bush Green. Can you believe
God, Def Jam threw the lamest after parties, didn't they? Gotta go and get a fillet of fish or a Donna yourself.
They probably walked it themselves as well.
Oh, wonderful. Betty, I'm going to ask you for track 4 to tell me the first song you remember buying from a record shop, please.
Well, I bought, when I had enough pocket money, I used to go to W.H. Smith in Hammersmith. There's a mall there, and I used to go into W.H. Smith quite a lot, because I used to buy my stationery there and books and things, and they used to sell records. And one day I really wanted to buy the Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Michael Jackson. I think that's the full title. what is it again? Is it, yeah, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough by Michael
Mm.
Jackson. And I just loved it. I just thought it was the greatest record. I just love Michael Jackson. I thought he was fantastic. But it was great. There's another story as well, actually, because in the same week, my dad used to work on the Central Line on the Underground. And when he'd finished his shift, he had to go from his cabin right to the other end to see if anyone had left anything. And somebody'd left a little R Price bag with a little 45 in there, little single, and it was M by Pop Music by M.
Sweet.
So in the same week, I got those records. So I was made up, and I didn't actually pay for that one, but that's kind of in the same week I had those two songs, and I love them.
Don't Stop Till You Get Enough is, if I answered these questions myself, I'd probably have that for greatest intro. The edit where it just goes woo and just goes.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
The full version's got that dudum dudum where he does a little bit of talking before it drops, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, it goes a little bit like a bit like that.
But when that goes, like, I mean, you ain't even got to be a fan of disco. That makes people want to move. It's incredible. That have you ever? I'm a bit nerdy for me tunes. Have you ever heard they put like a box set out of Off the Wall where they break they break down all the tracks in all the different stems and stuff. Have you heard Don't Stop Till You Get Enough?
No.
Oh, but it's insane. Like, know all the little like percussion, little ding 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 ding, no noises. That's Janet Jackson, who's about 6, hitting a little bottle.
Oh my God, I love that.
It's so good. Yeah, if you want to be a real nerdy anorak, yes, search for that, because it's a real fascinating listen. That.
Well, that might be my latest. I'm going to buy that. It's going to be my obsession.
Do it. So tell me a little bit about record shops as you sort of got a little older, and you know, you'd probably have to search to find good hip hop, you know, because the stuff that kind of was making it into the charts a lot of the time in the kind of the mid to late 80s would have been, there was lots of kind of stuff like stutter rap that was pastiching what was going on. But to get your hands on good hip hop, would you have to sort of dig a little deeper than Our Price or Smith's?
Yeah, you'd have to go to import shops. I mean, some of the shops in Shepherd's Bush and Ladbroke Grove would sell them, and yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking where I got my records from. They usually, there was a little shop in Shepherd's Bush Market that I used to go to and see if they had the latest imports, and just see what they had and then buy them. And you could listen to them and they play them, and then you could see if you liked it or not. I like that experience, actually. It was a really good thing to do. But if I'm honest, I used to just tape stuff off the radio, off pirate radio.
Well, it cost a few quid, didn't it, to buy a record?
Yeah.
And I think that what you just said there, you know, you like that experience. Like, I think that's something that's definitely sort of presented itself doing this podcast, is the fact that so many people remember buying like any record, not necessarily the first record, but they can literally pull out a record from the record collection and remember the journey where they got it, and you know, the attachment to it and the sleeve, and I think there's something, without wanting to sound like an old man and go, it's not like it was back then, because there's so many benefits to the way that people get music now. But I do think that journey is lost now, whereas you've got it all on your phone in an instant. I think there's something really beautiful about going, oh yeah, like we got the train to there, and then I remember sitting on the train and like blah 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 bought that, and I bought this, and we was looking at the sleeve notes, and we was like, I don't know if that's just the nerd in me, but I've got very fond memories of stuff like that. And I think,
no, it's definitely, it's just so tactile, and you know, just it is the journey, taking the train or whatever, or and then that moment where you put it on your record player, you know. That was great. But I did used to cheat a lot and just just tape a whole show of stuff. I mean, imports are quite expensive as well in those days.
Super expensive, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Right, Betty, I'm going to take you clubbing. Tell me the song that soundtracked your years clubbing, please.
Well, it's It Takes Two by Rob Bass and Easy Rock.
You keep picking records with incredible intros.
Doom, 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 doom. Yeah, it's so good. And this just takes me back to clubbing, and it's it's got the famous woo yeah, woo yeah, and you know I remember being in New York and hearing this, and Rob Bass and Easy Rock were there with DJ Red Alert and Biz Markie, and it's so funny because I mean, that was the bit like seeing, oh my God, these are superstars to me. They're like, yeah. I love this record so much. And also the dances that we used to do to them, like the Running Man and all that kind of thing. And there was another dance that we used to do called the WAP, which is like this.
Yeah.
It's quite an easy one to do.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And it's so funny because that time when I was in New York, it was during the time I was away with my group, and my mum didn't know where I was. I mean, I more or less left home. And
how old was you at this point?
17. So,
wow.
Which is really naughty of me, really. But my dad had just died, and I think I was running away. I just wanted to just do something, just to feel something. And so anyway, so I was at this club, and basically nobody knew where I was, and my brother was listening to Dave Pearce on Radio London, and he'd just been to the club where we were. I didn't see him there, but apparently he was reporting that he'd seen me on air, me and the She-Rockers hanging out with DJ Red Alert and Rob Bass and Easy Rock. And my brother said to my mum, he said, I think I know where Alison is. She was seen at a nightclub out in New York somewhere. And this was like a week later. So it's like, these are the days before mobile phones.
Yeah.
And, it was the days of reversing charges back home. I think my mum had got fed up of me doing that as well. So, but I went home, and they told me the story that they knew where I was. So, yeah.
You said you was confident, as a young woman, and you mentioned that all of a sudden, you're in New York surrounded by your musical heroes, and then obviously moving forwards to you as an independent artist and becoming, a huge pop star, and being, I'm sure in the company of so many other people that have influenced you and inspired you throughout your career. Yeah. Tell me about imposter syndrome. Is it anything you've ever experienced? Do you experience it? Do you still experience it? Like, is that something that's ever affected you?
I did actually. I have to admit, when I signed a second deal after I'd had my records with Rhythm King. I signed with Warner Brothers, and they signed me for quite a lot of money, and it was in the papers and everything. And I used to think, oh my God, I'm not worth that. I'm not.
Really?
I used to think, oh, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous amount of money. And I used to feel like I had to go away for a couple of months and really get my head around it. I went trekking in the Himalayas, and just to be with nothing, actually, to see how just to feel something that I should be feeling. I felt I got used to the idea, which is okay. I'm not being I couldn't possibly. No. I got used to it, and I quite liked it in the end. But at the beginning, for a young person, it's quite an unnatural thing to be famous and to have money, a lot of money. It's so unnatural. You just really have to have your head on the right way round, not go mad, not take drugs, that kind of thing. And I was very good. So,
because I think, aside from the purists that would have known about the She-Rockers, to a lot of people, I imagine they would have just thought, there's this new pop star called Betty Boo, and literally it felt like overnight you're everywhere. Like, how do you sort of make sense of how did you make sense of that at the time? Did it feel surreal, or do you think having the experiences you'd had previously with the She Rockers had kind of primed you a bit for it?
Not really. I think I'm because I did that record with the Beatmasters. I was a
Yeah,
featured artist, and I was 19 then. Well, actually, I met them when I was 18. So the record was out when I was 19. Um, that was a kind of stepping stone for me,
sure.
and I more or less I just turned up at the studio, did my raps because they said I'll just rap. Here's a backing track. We're planning on making this a new single. And they said, can you rap in these verses? And this is the concept. So I went away for a day and I went back to the studio. It was in Old Street. It's called Strong Room, the
Yeah,
Strong Room in Curtin Road, I think it is. And went back there and they mixed it. And the next thing I knew, I was on Top of the Pops. And it peaked at number 7. So I got to do all that sort of pop starry stuff with them at the beginning. So going off and doing, and people kind of knew who I was after that, or I was
yeah,
getting a name for myself, if you like,
sure.
especially in the clubs and stuff. I'd already done some groundwork, I think, before my debut stuff came out. So when like Do Na Do is serviced out to the clubs, people knew who I was and they were
Yeah,
able to play it. And they thought that it was a kind of a relative of Hey DJ because it was that sort of hip,
of course.
it's sort of up-tempo rap, pop rap with a chorus,
Yeah,
which, you know, there weren't that many songs like that in those days. So I was kind of I was prepared for it, but there again, I didn't know it was going to be so big.
yeah,
And in fact, looking back, I don't think I had that much time to really appreciate it
yeah,
because we were working so hard. I was just everywhere. Just, you know, someday I wasn't very, sometimes it wasn't well organized because I'd have to go to Italy and then come back to the UK, like go to Italy for the day to do a TV program and then come back in the evening to go to do Top of the Pops, or I'd have to go on a private plane up to, you know, to do a gig. You know, I was all over the place. And after a while, you know, I got really tired and
yeah.
I suffered from exhaustion. Had to take a break from it. But looking back, it was great fun. But again, there again, I mean, it's 18-hour days more or less, and
Yeah.
that's again is unnatural.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've got 2 tracks left, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, Betty.
That's
But
okay.
you mentioned Top of the Pops, and I just want you to tell me. 'Cause anytime I have a guest on here that's been on Top of the Pops, I imagine you've been on there multiple times. I want to know about the first time with Beatmasters. Um, I mean, because it's ridiculous to try and explain to people that missed that moment of music that was Top of the Pops, because it was everything. That was your Bible for pop music. You know, that was the only time you could literally see your pop stars. You know, you
Yeah.
would see them on the pops. Um, Tell me about when you got the call from whoever saying you're on Top of the Pops, how that was, and did it live up to your expectations when you actually got there, got in the studio and see it all? And yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I can't, yeah, it was surreal. Um, but growing up in Shepherd's Bush, Television Centre was just up the road.
oh, of
So,
course,
um, so I was used to seeing pop stars in and around our area because there was a park as well next to it that you'd often see um, pop stars having sort of press shots taken whilst in between waiting to go on to do Top of the Pops and
yeah.
things like that. I remember seeing Shwaddy Waddy, groups like that, and Depeche Mode, and all sorts, you know. So it was kind of like, it was good to, it's really exciting to have that happen in your hometown, you
Mm,
know. Um, so yeah, to know that I was going to be on inside that building where nobody had been before, unless you're in the audience, was
yeah,
really exciting. Um, but I do remember it feeling a bit like a Russian, like a cold sort of prison. It was full of concrete. There were no aesthetics. You know, the changing rooms were really stark, and it was all in a big sort of, it was like a rabbit warren where you just didn't know where you were.
Yeah.
And I remember had to smuggle in a hairdresser and a makeup artist because of the unions in those days, they insisted that they used their makeup and hair.
Oh, really?
So the same people that would have done Sue Lawley's hair for, or Angela Rippon would have done your hair.
No, thank you.
I thought, no, I want to look spacey. I want to look spacey. I want to look like a newsreader. So I smuggled some people in and pretended they were from the label and stuff. So I managed to get my look going.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant. Well, we've spoke about home a lot, so I'm going to take you home for track 6, and I'm going to ask you, please, Betty, to tell me your favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
Well, this is interesting because, again, growing up, I think because Shepherd's Bush, it was quite arty as well. So I think a lot of artists moved there. And Stuart Copeland lived up the road from us from the Police, or at least he had a flat there. And I remember kids sort of queuing up, sort of gathering outside his house, hoping to see him and stuff. So I loved the Police. I mean, they were one of my favorite groups. I had one of their albums as well when I was growing up, and I loved Don't Stand So Close to Me.
Yeah.
Thought it was great. The videos, again, they were like little mini films, weren't they?
Yeah,
there was a bit of tension, there was a bit of narrative, and you just wanted to watch them over and over again.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything by the Police or that particular record is one that I love. But to think that I thought Police was like superstars, but to think that he lived in like 2 streets up the road from us is really cool.
Yeah, that's surreal. I mentioned about confidence earlier, and from the She Rockers to Beatmasters to Betty, and obviously there's new music which we'll talk about shortly. Tell me, because the music industry is a ferocious place, and that's aside from obviously you as a writer as well. It's so competitive, it's so fast moving, and aside from confidence, tell me about your relationship with drive.
With drive?
Yeah.
Oh, to drive yourself to
You're
work.
Driven. Yeah.
I don't know. I set myself. I think I'm quite difficult on myself, actually, if I'm honest. I just leave things. I make things harder for myself. Sometimes I leave. Yeah, I've left things to the last minute to put pressure on myself.
Purposely?
Or subconsciously, I think, in lots of ways, because I put things off, and I think, no, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then somehow I get this sort of surge of, I've got to do it, and then I sort of, my brain goes into the right mode, and I'm able to complete things. And I think I've always been like that, because even at school, just doing essays, I was always a Sunday night, got to do it last minute sort of thing. I suppose drive. I think getting older drives you, because you think, what are you waiting for? What what you're going to do it like in 10 years time, put out new records? No, you've got to do it now. And that's what happened to me when I turned 50. I just thought, oh, you've been putting this off for so long. Just, what are you waiting for? You've got to do it.
Did you feel like you've been putting it off then?
Definitely. I didn't feel like it was the right time ever. And also had to really think about, is it okay for somebody who was around in those days to come back? Is it okay for a woman to do that? Is it, what are people going to think? And then I thought, well, have you ever really worried about what people think? And I actually haven't worried that too much, because if you did do that, you wouldn't put yourself out there, make music.
Wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you wouldn't play a tennis match if you worried about what people, So again, I use tennis as a kind of a tool for me to feel like I've achieved something. It's sort of like it goes hand in hand with what I do. And yeah, I just think, yeah, you just have to motivate yourself and just go, yeah, just do it. You got to. Don't worry about don't listen to those little voices that say you can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want to, if you think in the back of your mind you can do something and you've got it in you, you got to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last track, Betty. I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to hear.
Okay, so not many people that I know Cold Rocker Party by MC Light, and it features Missy Elliott, and I think P Diddy's on there as well, doing a bit of a or something.
You really underplayed his contribution there. He literally just grunted.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, and it's actually a remix, because the original isn't really like that, by MC Light. This remix samples, I think it's Upside Down by Diana Ross, and the beat on it is just the swag. It's got so much swagger, and MC Light just raps on it, and she's just amazing. I love her, and Missy, obviously everyone loves Missy. It's one of the best tracks. I mean, when I DJ, well, when I've DJs in the past, I've always played it, and people go, "Oh, I don't know this," and they start moving. They just start doing all the Missy moves and everything. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's one of the greatest tracks, actually. Do you know it? Do you know the track?
I do. Yeah, it's great, and great use of the sample as well. They kind of slowed it down as well. Like,
they did slow it down,
worked.
so it gives it kind of like, it just makes you feel really cool.
I'll take what I can get when it comes to that these days. Betty, we put together a Spotify playlist to accompany the podcast, so people can go and listen to all of the songs that you've chosen, and we've thrown some other ones that we've chatted about today, and obviously we put some of your music on there as well. So about your music, tell me about the new record. Let's get a big old plug in.
Okay, so my new single is called Shining Star, and it's got a disco-y vibe on there, and I had great fun writing it, and it's actually we only finished it. It wasn't that long ago, actually. It was so fresh. We just thought we got to put it out. So, and it's on the album that's going to come out in a few months, I think. Yeah.
Wonderful. Live shows?
Yes, I've got lots of festivals coming up. I'm busy all summer, actually. And it's great to be back. There seems to be a lot more festivals than ever.
Yeah,
it seems.
Everywhere.
Yeah, they are, and they're in every town. So yeah, I think I'm doing about 12 or 15 this summer, which is good. Sometimes I'm going to be doing 2 in a day, but it's just, I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just great to get out there and just meet people, and I think people are really ready to have like the best time.
Absolutely. And if people want to keep up the speed with everything that you're up to, where's the best place to keep up with all things
well, I'm on across all the social media platforms, Insta, Facebook and Twitter, and I usually put feeds up every other day and stuff.
Wonderful.
And I've got a website as well, which is linked. It's all in the bio on the Instagram. So
wonderful. Well, we'll tag you in it when we put this episode out.
Lovely.
Betty, it's been such a joy talking records with you today. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, it's been really good fun. Thank you so much. Going down memory lane.
Thanks, Betty. I'm going to press stop right now. And I'll press stop.